Okay, so today we're going to be covering polynomials, factor, remainders here, and this is part 2. In this video, I'll be covering cubic equations and factors of cubic equations, how to find the other factor when you already know the one factor. So the question says that we have this cubic equation over here. I'll just skip right to the question. It says that this is like the formula of the cubic equation, and the x minus 2 is a factor of that cubic equation. So it's asking us for the first part, it's asking us to factorize it completely or factorize it fully. So how do we do that? If you don't quite remember how we did that, watch the previous video. So the procedure is going to be the same here. You're going to divide the cubic equation by this factor to find the other factors. So x minus 2 . Okay, so let's take say the highest power inside of the house, move it outside, and then the highest power outside of the house, also move that outside, so that becomes 16x squared. If you don't understand any part of this video, then comment, and then I'll reply to your comment or even make a separate video if it merits it. I'll multiply each term. So 16 into x, that's 16x cubed, and 16 into 2 is minus 32x squared. And just for simplicity, I'm going to erase that really quickly because you don't need that. Just gonna get my calculator out just in case to double check my answers. Right, so 16 to 2, yeah, that was 32. So remember what we did last time? We used to flip the sign, so this is positive, this becomes negative, and this is negative, so it becomes positive. If you don't understand this, watch my previous video. 32 minus 24 is 8x squared, and then we move all these down without incident. Minus 2, and then we take the highest power, and then we repeat the whole process. Take the highest power outside of the house, move it outside, then the highest power outside of the house, also move that outside, so we get 8x, and then we move 8x over here, and then we multiply it by each term. So 8x into x is going to be 8x squared, and 8x into 2 is 16. Well, it's minus into minus 2, so to be specific, it'll be minus 16x. And I'll just erase that for simplicity. Right, sorry, this should be 8x squared. This is positive, so it becomes negative. This becomes positive. 16x minus x is going to be x minus 2. So we take this and x, so yeah, 1, move 1 over here, and multiply it, so that's x minus 2, 0. Okay, so if the question already states that x minus 2 is a factor, okay, if the question already states that x minus 2 is a factor, then the remainder should always be 0. If it's not 0, then it's not a factor. Just simple, it's just not a factor. For something to be a factor of the other thing, when you divide them, the remainder should be 0. Otherwise, it's not a factor. So I can say that 3 is a factor of 6. Why can I say that? Well, when I divide 6 by 3, that's 2, 6, and that's 0. But I can't say 4 is a factor of 6. Because when I do that, well, this becomes decimals and stuff. I'm not going to do the whole procedure. I think the better way would be to choose a bigger number, just to make it easier. Like this. I can't say that 3 is a factor of 10. Why can't I say that? Because when I divide it, this will be 3, 9, and I'll get 1. This is not 0. This is a remainder. That means that 3 is not a factor of 10. So the question has already said that x minus 2 is a factor. So since I already said that it's a factor, when I divide this by this, I should always get 0 in my remainder. Otherwise, it's just the question is wrong. Otherwise, because that means it's not a factor. So you should always get 0 as your n remainder if this is a factor. Okay. So explain that. I'll move it down. Okay, so we can rewrite this. I'm just gonna erase this. Okay, so we can rewrite this entire equation. So when we divide x minus 2, we can rewrite this, x minus 2. Because look, when you multiply this and this together, you get this whole equation. Similarly, say 3 and 6 2, 6, 0. You multiply this, you multiply 3 and 2 together, you get 6. That's why I replaced it by this equation. Also, we have to replace it because the question is asking us to factorize it fully. And by factorize, you know what factorizing is. We're in A2. So x minus 2, I'm running on a space. Yeah, I'll keep it there. X minus 2 and 16x squared plus 8x plus 1. Okay, but this is not completely factorized. When you see a quadratic equation, now this is what we've been doing since IG2. When you see a quadratic equation, you already know that you can factorize it by finding its roots. So you can either, no, you can run a quadratic equation, you have to do middle term breaking. So I'm gonna just hope that you know middle term breaking beforehand. If you don't, I'm gonna cover it either way. So let's move on. Middle term breaking. How do we do middle term breaking? Well, 16x squared, I'm just gonna do this very quickly. You multiply this and you have to break this into two things so that they add up to this. Well, that's very easy. I have to read 16 and I have to get 8. So okay, I have to get what? You have to think here. So I hate middle term breaking. I really have to think. So I have to reach 8. Oh, sorry. I meant when you sorry. I meant these two pairs, when you break this up into two pairs, they should add up to 8. They should add up to 8. And when they multiply, they should get 16. Yeah, sorry. When for middle term breaking, you have to find two numbers that add up to 8x. And when they multiply, they give you 16. So let's think 4 into 4. Yeah. So 4x. When you add them together, you get 8x. And when you multiply them, you get 16. So that's middle term breaking. If you understand something, then leave a timestamp and tell me, and I'll respond in comments or make a separate video. So x minus 2, we can replace that as 16x squared plus 4x plus 4x plus 1. And then x minus 2. Okay, I'm going to give like a big square bracket because we're going to have to use brackets in it. So I'll take 4 as a common. I'll take 4x as a common. So I'll be left with 4x plus 1. And here I'll take 1 as a common. So 4x plus 1. Like this. X minus 2. 4x plus 1. 4x plus 1. And so these are the same terms, so I can just replace it as 4x plus 1 squared. Right? I don't think I need to write both of them down. X minus 2. 4x plus 1. So you look, this is the same term multiplying 4x plus 1 into 4x plus 1. That's basically the same as saying 4x plus 1 squared, because 4 squared is the same as saying 4 into 4. So yeah, I don't even know why I explained that, but 4x plus 1 squared. Okay, so this is the equation fully factorized. That's the first part of the question. So now that we have the equation fully factorized, the second part is asking us to solve. It says hence solve 16x cubed minus 24x squared minus 15x minus 2. So it's asking us to solve this equation. So remember how we solve quadratic equations? We used to just factorize it and then equate it to 0, and then equate each factor to 0, right? Like for example, say we're solving x squared plus 4x minus 4x, say minus 4x plus 4. So we could replace that as x minus 2, x minus 2. Yeah, and then we equate that to 0, and then we equate each one to 0. x minus 2 equals to 0. We do the same exact thing here. Remember how, just look at how we replaced this by its factors, and then we equated each factor to 0. That's what we're going to do the same thing here. The same procedure will be here. We're going to replace the equation, the long equation, with like smaller factors, and then equate each factor to 0. So that's this whole equation can be rewritten into this form. So x minus 2, 4x plus 1 squared is equal to 0. And then we equate each one to 0. So x minus 2 equals equal to 0. So that's x is equal to 2. That's one answer of x. And 4x plus 1 is equal to 0 squared. So we take square root of both sides. 0 square root of 0 is 0. 4x plus 1 equals to 0. 4x is equal to negative 1. X is equal to negative 1 by 4. That's a very ugly x. So I'm just going to redraw it. Right. So those are our two answers. So this whole cubic equation, the roots of this cubic equation, or when this cubic equation, is equal to 0, basically the solution is x is equal to 2 and x is equal to negative 1 by 4. You can plug them into the equation. You can replace x by either of these values, and you can figure out that yes, that is true. And that's the entire video, I think. We've covered it. We've covered cubic equations. And next video I'll be covering what to do when we have to deal with remainders and unknown in the equation using the factor and remainder theorem.